Jerry, thanks a lot for coming to Dallas. We're really happy to have you here.
Pleasure being here.
Always before we've talked in LA or New York or any place but Dallas, this is a real treat for us.
It's too bad we're in a room here. I'd love to be outside. It's a beautiful day.
It is. We did it especially for you.
No, I know you did.
But if you hang around until tomorrow, it could be who knows what.
That's right.
Anyway, you're here to talk about Black Hawk Down.
Right.
And it's such a powerful film, so beautifully done.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you didn't mean it to be, or let me ask you, when you set out to make this film, did you have any idea it would be so timely?
No, you never know. I mean, you find a good tale, and this is a true story about the heroic and events that happened in Somalia by our young soldiers in '93, and you just get, taken, swept away by the drama of it and the tragedy of it and the bravery of it. And it was an event that we didn't want the American public or the world to forget about, because our young boys lost their lives and they should be remembered.
You did have, I guess, complete cooperation of the Department of Defense, the State Department.
Yeah, they were wonderful to us. They gave us the helicopters and the Rangers. The Rangers who you see roping in the movie are the actual ones who are in Afghanistan right now. The helicopter pilots are all over there. It's the 160th, which are the best of the best that we have, and the Delta are deployed all over the world.
That is so amazing to me, because I've had a little bit of connection with the Department of Defense. And these guys are not easy to persuade.
Well, I think the book did the persuading. Mark Bowden wrote a wonderful book, and it's on the recommended reading for parts of the military, at least the Army. So, I mean, that helped us a lot. That was a great calling card to go in with.
But in actual fact, you didn't have some of the material until almost Ridley was ready to call the shot, isn't that right?
Yeah, it takes a while to develop the screenplay, and it's a work in progress. But we gave them an early draft of the script, and they were pleased with the direction it was going.
And so they did have script approval.
They don't have script approval, but they get to read the script and tell you what things they don't like, and if certain things you can't agree on, you don't get the equipment. That's all. Look, nobody wants to rent their house and have somebody destroy it. So if you loan your house to somebody for a party, you don't want to come back and have it trashed. And that's the same thing. They have the right to do that.
As the producer, Jerry, how much time did you actually spend in Morocco?
I tried to be there every 10 days to 2 weeks and spend 4 or 5 days there. We had films on 4 different continents at the time, so I had to make a little sweep. We were finishing Pearl Harbor here and had a picture in Australia, another picture in Czechoslovakia, and then the picture in Morocco. So it was a busy year.
Originally, the film was going to be released in March, and now it's being released in January. Why did you move it up?
It's a very powerful film. When Ridley and I first looked at his first cut, we said, we really feel we have something really special here. And we showed it to people at Revolution, and they looked at us and said, are we nuts? Is this as good as we think it is? And they said, let's show it to Sony. We showed it to Sony. They all said, this is a wonderful movie. And then we said, let's just make sure, because we're all so close to it. We've all read the script and familiar with the material. And so we brought in some journalists and showed it to them, some reviewers. And they agreed with all of us that it had enormous power to it. And so we felt the picture should at least be considered for the accolades at the end of the year. And so far, the critical response, almost across the board, has been sensational. And the same thing with the few theaters that we opened to try to qualify for the Academy Awards. You can't get a seat. It's been sold out in both New York and LA.
Have you so far received any nominations?
We got 5 nominations for the American Film Awards, and the Academy Award nominations haven't come out yet. But we've made, I think we're the 3rd highest number of top 10 lists of films that came out last year. So that's quite an honor just in itself from critics around the country.
But by coming out earlier than anticipated, you really had to double time trying to get the hype, if you will, or to get the information out to the people who need to know. Yeah,
that's the one thing that we had to speed up. But fortunately, there's television, and you can certainly buy some airspace and get some commercials on. And we've got, I think, a pretty effective campaign that's running right now.
Okay. Could this film, if you were starting out today, could this film be done today with the same cooperation from all the State Department, Department of Defense, and so forth?
No, they couldn't. I mean, I'm sure we get the same cooperation. We just couldn't get the equipment. It's all gone. The Rangers are all deployed. The helicopters are gone. I mean, you know, we're at war, so different priority now. At the time, we were in a more peaceful mode, so the soldiers were training, and this was a great training exercise for them too.
So what would you have done? Not done the movie, or what?
No, I think we'd have to do it a different way. You have to do the helicopters digitally, or you have to do just something else. You know, in fact, we had a backup plan in case we couldn't get the Blackhawks to use these UEs and digitally augment them.
But that would have been more time involved and
It'd be
money.
definitely more expensive. But I think the end product would have been very powerful, not quite as good as what we ended up with.
How does this budget compare with, say, Pearl Harbor?
A lot less expensive. About $50 million less, so it's a whole other movie there.
And as the producer, you smile when you say that.
No, I smile because they're both really wonderful pictures, and you know, as long as you get your money's worth, and you see that in Pearl Harbor's case it was $140 million, but it's on the screen. And the same thing with this, which is around 90, which is really up there, and looks like a much more expensive movie.
Well, Jerry, I can only wish you the best, because
Thank you.
This is a film that deserves to be seen, and I just don't see how anybody can walk out of that film and not be impressed.
Well, it's you know, again, it's about courage and bravery, and what we find is the more women we screen it for, you know, they all have a very emotional attachment to the movie, even though chances are it might not be their first choice, but once they're in the theater, they all have brothers or fathers or grandfathers or kids or you know, that you know, are military age or have gone through the military, and it hits them emotionally.
Well, thanks again
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Pleasure.
Just stay where you are. Okay. Doing business with the Department of State and the Defense Department isn't an easy gig. How were you able to convince them?
It's always difficult when you work with a government to convince them to do anything, but the book was so well received by them that they wanted to be involved.
Okay. Did the government have script approval?
Not really. I mean, we could choose to make the picture another way. In other words, nobody wants to rent their house to somebody and then they trash it. So it's the same thing. They didn't want to give us their equipment and their prize soldiers, and yet we abused them.
If you were starting today to try to do this movie, could you?
No, everything would be deployed. The Rangers and the helicopters are gone, and the soldiers, and so we'd have to figure out another way to do it, but we'd get it done.
The film, originally the film was going to be released in March, and now it's moved up to January. Why did they move it up?
Because we found that the picture was very powerful and exciting, and a lot of people agree with us, so that's why we decided to change the date.
So far, has the picture received any nominations for awards?
Yes, we got 5 AFI awards so far, and you know, National Film Board top 10 lists and a bunch of top 10 lists, so that's good.
That's fine.
Great.